and welcome to this webinar called Ensuring Your Legacy. The webinar is on exit planning for child care business owners. My name is Jenny Massal, and I am a business consultant with the ICA Group. The ICA Group is a national nonprofit organization with the mission of changing the nature of work by advancing businesses and institutions that center worker voice, grow worker wealth, and build worker power. And we have a team that works specifically on childcare. We work with childcare business owners across the country. And that work really comes from the understanding that many childcare businesses are financially insecure and are unable to pay living wages, both to the owners of the business as well as the workers. And so we offer business consulting, access to capital, succession planning, and cooperative ownership models to build a better, more resilient childcare industry. And this webinar is really about explaining the process of creating an exit plan. We'll talk about what exit planning is and why it's important, how to identify your goals for exiting your business, and special considerations for child care businesses. This webinar is based off of a guide on our website called Ensuring Your Legacy, a guide to exit planning for child care business owners. And the webinar is also part one of a two-part webinar series. So this first part is really Exit Planning 101, and then in part two, we'll get more into ownership transfer options for child care businesses. So you can access this other webinar and our other resources on our website at icagroup.org/childcare. And so I want to start with some of the reasons that it's important to think about exit planning. So first and foremost, as a business owner, you've created jobs, and exit planning can ensure that they exist after you leave the business. You've also provided care to families in your community. You're providing a really critical resource. And exit planning can ensure that that service continues after you leave the business. And finally, you've invested resources, financial resources into your business, and exit planning can ensure that you receive a fair return from the sale of your business. And exit planning is based on the premise that at some point, every business owner will leave their business. And by creating and executing an exit plan, business owners can transfer ownership while assuring that their goals can be achieved during the transaction. So an exit plan typically includes the owner's target departure date, their financial needs, succession plan, a preliminary valuation on the value of the business, and financial projections for the business moving forward. And a successful exit plan maximizes the value of your business at the time of ownership transfer, minimizes risk for the owner in the business, and serves as a tool to maintain owner control throughout the transition process. So what we see is that when owners don't create exit plans, something inevitable can happen that kind of prevents them from exiting the business on their own terms. They might get sick, a family member might get sick, and that the exit plan is really the best tool to kind of navigate that process and stay in control over that process. And the exit planning process involves 3 stages. The first is to identify your goals for exiting your business, then exploring the best options for meeting your goals, and finally implementing your exit plan. So there are a number of questions to be thinking about as you identify your goals for exiting your business. So the first is thinking about your target date for exiting the business and identifying your timeline for no longer being involved with the day-to-day operations of the business. And also asking if you have a different timeline for transferring ownership of the business. So thinking about your ownership as well as your responsibility over the business and how that plays into your timeline. And another question is, do you want to exit the business gradually over a staged reduction in ownership and responsibility, or exit completely at the time of transfer? When you think about your financial needs, what is your target selling price for the business? And do you need to receive that price in cash at close, or can you receive it over time? It's also important to identify goals around your ideal successor. So do you have someone in mind who you want to transfer your business to, such as an employee or a family member, or do you want to sell to an outsider through a broker or an internet marketplace? And finally, what is the legacy you want to leave? Do you want to preserve your center's legacy in your community, make sure it continues to provide care for decades to come? Are you looking to take care of or reward your employees? These are all questions that help you identify your goals for exiting your business. And some of these questions and goals require input from others. So conversations with family members and trusted peers can help with identifying your timeline and financial needs. And it can also be valuable to consult a professional, such as a financial planner or a CPA or a lawyer. And one other thing to note is that exit planning can be an emotional process. It can be scary to think about aging and retirement. Many business owners feel like their identity is linked to their business and they don't want to lose that part of their identity. Childcare business owners have relationships with children, parents, and teachers. It can be sad to imagine no longer being part of the daily life of this community. But we really think that by planning your exit in advance, you will be more emotionally prepared for a future transition. After you've identified your goals for exiting your business, you'll move on to exploring the best options for meeting your goals. So part of that is conducting a business valuation, which will tell you what your business is worth and how the value is determined. And you can use that valuation to assess the gap you need to fill between today's value and the value you need when you exit. You'll also want to update your business plan, which serves as a roadmap for making business improvements and other strategic decisions that can maintain or increase the value of your business. And finally, you'll create a management succession plan, which requires you to consider options for future ownership and management of the business. And you can start by outlining all the tasks that you perform as a business owner and develop a strategy to transition these tasks to other people within your target timeframe. And finally, the third stage is implementing your exit plan. So as you implement your exit plan, you'll develop a timeline with key milestones, and you'll want to continually revisit your exit plan in case your goals change or your strategy needs to be adjusted. And as part of this process, it's really important to be aware of common beliefs and actions that can prevent your plan from being successful. I'm going to talk about those next. So in terms of barriers to success, one of the biggest barriers we see is an inability from the owner to adjust their expectations around price. So we really encourage you to use evaluation to set your expectations for sale price and not let the belief that the business value is higher than the actual value as determined by evaluation be a barrier to a successful sale of your business. We also see challenges when the owner really focuses on top line price. So we recommend remembering the big picture. It can be really common to focus exclusively on the top line price for the business, but the transaction structure also impacts how much money you receive for the business. So as you weigh your options, consider the cash you'll receive for the business, both upfront and as interest payments over time. Also be prepared. Real challenges can occur when you enter into deals without preparation and due diligence. So make sure you're performing due diligence as you consider your options. Another challenge comes when an owner takes their eyes off of business performance. So really keep your eyes on the ball throughout the whole process of exiting your business. Pay attention to business performance, including enrollment, staff turnover, and spending throughout every stage of the transfer process. And this is really in order to maintain business value as you exit. And finally, let go. Failure to extract yourself from daily operations can really jeopardize the business's ability to function without you. So as an owner, really focus on training and supporting your staff to take over your role as you exit. And so finally, I want to talk about some special considerations that are unique to childcare businesses. So I'm going to talk about real estate, partial or complete exits, industry challenges, licensing, and the economy. So in terms of real estate, if you own the real estate that your childcare business occupies, there's a question of whether you want to maintain ownership of the real estate and just sell the business, or do you want to sell the business and real estate together, or do you want to sell the real estate to a buyer who won't necessarily use it for a childcare business? These are all things to be thinking about as you set your goals for exiting the business. And your exit plan should really consider the real estate as well as the business. In some cases, center owners maintain ownership of the real estate, and you might sell the business with a long-term lease for the building and receive rent payments from the business over the terms of the lease. In other cases, the real estate value might be significantly higher than the business value, and it could be in an owner's best interest to prioritize selling the building to a buyer who won't necessarily use it for a childcare business. And connecting with a real estate appraiser in your area can help you understand what transaction options exist for selling the real estate. If you lease the building that the child care center occupies, consider how this lease will be transferred to new ownership. Will your landlord be amenable to renewing the lease for a new owner? Many owners have personal guarantees on a lease, which can create challenges when they exit the business. In some cases, it might be helpful for an owner to stay on as the guarantor, even after they've exited the business. So planning in advance around your building lease can really help ensure that the center will be able to occupy the building after you exit the business. Next, I want to talk about partial or complete exits. And so for center owners who want to decrease their responsibility but aren't ready to exit completely, there are many options for how you can think about transitioning ownership, responsibility, or both ownership and responsibility. For example, you can exit the business in stages over time, gradually giving up day-to-day responsibility. Or you could agree to help with the transition of the business to new owners, and you could develop an employment contract for that work as part of the sale of the business. And if you're an owner who also serves as the center director, it might be possible for you to maintain ownership, but hire someone new to take over as the director. And finally, you could also bring in new owners as partners or employee owners and maintain your responsibility over day-to-day operations. So there are a number of options for thinking about both your ownership role in the business as well as your responsibility with the day-to-day operations of the business, and kind of considering that range of options can be really helpful in the exit planning process. And so the childcare industry is a really tough industry, and it might be common for center owners to be dealing with common childcare business challenges such as staff recruitment and retention. And in those cases, participatory employee engagement or a transfer to your employees could help address this challenge. So research has shown that job satisfaction and growth are higher in employee-owned companies. And a business that is owned by its employees has a unique advantage in recruiting, retaining, and motivating exceptional staff. And so for some of those challenges you're dealing with, kind of thinking about what transfer option might address those challenges can be helpful as you plan. And when we talk about employee ownership, we're referring to a business that is owned and controlled by employees of the business. And in a transfer to an employee cooperative, the shares of the business are transferred from the existing owner to the workers. Next, I want to talk about licensing. As highly regulated businesses, child care centers require a number of licenses. And so you should work closely with your licensing representative during your exit planning to understand how an ownership transfer impacts your business license. Your goal should really be to minimize disruptive center downtime during the transition and ensure that a new owner will be able to legally operate the business at the time of transfer. And finally, your business success is connected to what's happening in the broader economy. Growth in per capita disposable income influences demand for childcare, and state budgets impact the government's ability to invest in programs that benefit the industry. So the difference in selling in a good market versus a bad market can significantly impact the value of your childcare business. So as much as you can, planning for your exit requires you to pay attention to what's happening in the economy. And again, as much as you can, time your exit to maximize value. So at ICA, we recognize that as the owner of a child care center, you've put your heart and soul into your business and providing quality care for your community. And while it can be challenging, planning for your eventual exit from the business is one of the best things you can do to preserve the value of your business, ensure your legacy, and achieve the retirement goals you desire. And so ICA can work with you to begin your exit planning process. After working with our consulting team, you will receive a summary report that summarizes your exit goals, provides a business health check and cost of care analysis, gives an estimation of the enterprise value, what's a reasonable price you could sell your business for, as well as outlines the paths to exit the business. And so please contact us to see if you qualify for grant-funded succession planning services. You can reach out to Ann McSweeney, our Child Care Program Director. Thanks so much for joining us for this webinar. Please feel free to check out our other resources on our website at icagroup.org/childcare, or reach out to us if you have any questions or would like assistance as you think about your own exit planning process. Thanks so much.